Our next speaker on the panel is Mr. Prasad Menon. He is the Managing Director of Tata Power. He has been Managing Director for Tata Power and Tata Sons Limited since 2006. Before that, he had 36 years of professional experience in the industry. Please, Mr. Menon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Alexander. I was just glancing through the program a little while ago in the afternoon, and I found that if I look down the list of speakers in the plenary sessions, I found that I was the only industry representative, and I think that's a move by my good friend Karthikeya. I'm not sure why, but it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be in CE, which I've always admired, and to be here at the invitation of my friend Karthikeya. We are faced with three truths. The first is that it's beyond reasonable doubt that global warming is upon us, and that it is probably the greatest challenge that mankind faces. The second truth is that we are depleting the Earth's resources at an alarming rate. And the third, and this is something that industry must ponder upon, is that industry is smack in the middle of this. And if you really look at some of the things that were talked about this morning by some of our distinguished speakers, we realize that business and industry has a huge role to play in the entire issue, not just of climate change as one aspect, but the entire area of sustainability. Gone are the days when business could, with impunity, spew out pollutants into the atmosphere, remove resources from the earth without bothering about the damage that takes place, buying land at prices that are so low that you leave a community even more impoverished than they were before. And gone are the days when they could ride roughshod over government policy. We do have a situation today where there is enormous pressure being placed on industry from governments, from civic institutions, from consumers, and from different parts of society. And I think it's a great thing that this tension occurs. And I'm reminded of a story which maybe some of you have heard, about this destroyer of the United States Navy, which is cutting through the waves in the middle of the night on a misty night, and suddenly the ship notices a light which is burning right in front. So they get in touch with that and say, move 30 degrees starboard immediately. So back comes a message saying, you move 30 degrees. So the admiral who's on board gets onto the radio and says, this is Rear Admiral so-and-so, who are you? So the other guy says, Ensign so-and-so. So he says, right, now you move. Who are you to tell me to move 30 degrees? He says, I am the lighthouse. Now move 30 degrees starboard. So David, in some sense, is now beginning to stand up to Goliath. As a representative of the energy industry, we are also faced with colliding trends, and if you really look at the entire issue of energy, it is the basement. It's what everybody depends on for their day-to-day work, and we take it for granted. We take it for granted that there's power coming through that light. We take it for granted that fans are operating. We take it for granted that we can switch on ACs or fridges whenever we want, and therefore energy is something that we take for granted. But there is a huge, relentless increase in demand. And this is driven not just by global growth, but in particular by India and China. India and China alone, over the next 20 years, will be responsible for more than 50% of the demand growth. At the same time, there is a slow drop-off in terms of crude and gas supplies from outside the OPEC countries. And it is becoming more and more expensive, leave aside shale gas in the United States, more and more expensive to exploit new resources of oil. And at the same time, there is another trend, of course, which is the intensifying need to reduce greenhouse gases. So all this is creating a kind of tension the world over on society, on business, on government, on civil society. So what can we do? What can industry do? And I'd just like to go through some of the things that we are trying to do in Tata Power, with a little bit of a health warning that this is not necessarily the best, it's not necessarily the only one, but we are trying to do our bit. What we've said is that sustainability is the real issue. It's not just climate change, it's not just renewables, but it's a whole host of issues which are much more than just climate change. And I love the definition of sustainability that I once read, given by William McDonough, the guy who wrote Cradle to Cradle. He said, our goal is a delightfully diverse, safe, healthy and just world with clean air, water, soil and power, economically, equitably, ecologically and elegantly enjoyed. What a lovely description of sustainability. And this is really the true meaning of sustainability. So what can a company do to move towards this? What can business do? The first, of course, is to actually subsume the entire issue of sustainability into our business models. You can't keep CSR as one little bolt-on, another bolt-on which is renewables, and expect the whole engine to move. It has to be a part of us. It has to be internalized. It has to be felt by us. It has to connect with us. And therefore, it has to move around a culture of care. Care for the environment, care for the community, and care for the organization. Because in many ways, care really embodies both a deep respect for the earth and its ecosystems and an unfailing spirit of hope. Leaving aside the harder issues and the easier in some ways to handle issues of bringing down air pollution, bringing down water usage, reducing waste and so on, which are issues which are generally dealt with most responsible companies, you need to move much beyond that. How do we convince the people who work for the organization that sustainability is something which is ingrained into our business model? Because all of us who work in industry are brought up and taught to think in a particular way, that we must produce whatever we're producing, sell it at the best price we can get the best returns for our shareholders and move on. And quite often they seem to think that issues like sustainability and climate change and so on, these softer issues, are issues to put in a sustainability report or for discussions during the annual general meeting. So the first thing that we've tried to do is to convince people that sustainability makes sense. It makes business sense and makes eminent business sense. Whether it is the fact that when we go out and put up new projects, we need the permission of the communities. It is in our interests to make sure that those communities are actually happy to have us around. And we've sort of defined what we want to be. We've said that we must be the neighbor of choice. That communities must want us to be there, to be a part of their lives. And we realized in many of our projects that unless we internalize it in that particular way, we are not going to get permission to move. We are going to get stalled wherever we take a step forward. So our people have started to understand that this is a real issue. We've also started to talk to children, to go to schools in Mumbai and go to the more affluent schools who are actually using more power and teach them about energy conservation, about carbon footprinting. And I was heartened to see the other day when one of the people I know came and told me, he says, Tata Power is creating a huge problem for me. So I said, what happened? So he says, look, my daughter comes back home and switches off all the lights. She refuses to allow us to use the washing machine. She refuses to allow me to go out in the car alone, and so on. So I said, great. There's the new generation of tomorrow. And I'm happy that this is having an impact. So we have started to teach children. We started to tell our own people to factor their carbon footprints, to improve their carbon footprints, and so on. We've started to look at architecture and the way architecture affects culture. And we said that we will put in green buildings wherever we go. And those green buildings, again, we must understand that whenever we go into a new site, we actually change that ecosystem forever. And we must have the humility to accept that. So therefore, we need to make sure that whatever we build there harmonizes with the surroundings, harmonizes and actually has the permission of the local community. We involve them in the entire design. And when we started doing that, our people started understanding how it affects the culture, how it makes them reach out to society, and how it makes them understand how society can be helpful in our own objectives, and so on. We have moved in a number of ways in sustainability in these issues to try and internalize it, try and make it a part of our business, to start moving away from the past and start creating a platform for the future. A platform for the future which would be respected by society, which would make us clear leaders in this area, and which would bring us new businesses in the green space, which would help us to continue to move business forward and to continue to exist for another 100 years. So it's been difficult. It's been difficult, but we have moved in a number of areas. We have brought in new technologies. We have found that when we started doing such things, that a lot of youngsters are attracted to working for us. We've had people from universities in the eastern seacoast of the US writing to me saying, I'd like to come and work in Tata Power. So suddenly people have started understanding that this is what appeals to the young. And therefore we have a whole host of people who are now willing to take lower salaries rather than going into the McKinseys of this world or the other consultancies and work for a company like Tata Power. They are getting attracted. So all this is beginning to have an effect on our own employees, and all this is beginning to make them believe that sustainability is part of our lifeblood. I'd just like to conclude by giving you a quote, because there was a talk today and a lot of speakers have been saying that this world is so deeply connected. And there was this quotation by an American Indian chief, Chief Seattle, whom many of you probably heard about 150 years ago, who said that humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect. And we must remember this. And that's what sustainability is all about. That everything is connected. You push the balloon in one place, it'll come out in another. Thank you very much.